so you can expect that in your inbox. Now, before I introduce our presenters today, I would like to give you a little bit of background on Action for Healthy Kids for those of you that might be joining us for the first time. Action for Healthy Kids is a nationwide grassroots network. We mobilize school professionals, families, and communities to take actions that improve school food, nutrition education, physical activity, and physical education for all students. We offer free programs, educational resources, and grants to schools to implement best practices and policies in order to increase physical activity and improve the school food environment. Those are our two focus areas. We really think that everybody has a really important role to play in creating healthier schools and students. So Game On is our flagship program. It is really a great program, and it's a framework that K through 12 schools can use over multiple years, and it helps the kids in school and the school teachers and staff and the community practice good nutrition and physical activity habits. It's online, it's no cost for schools to use, and it can be tailored to meet the needs of your specific community. So you'll see up on the screen, it's organized into 6 steps to help guide your school in creating a sound, sustainable school wellness environment. The steps: gathering your team, completing an assessment, creating an action plan, and implementing activities. That's step 4. Game On has over 80 different nutrition and physical activity challenges with templates and resources and implementation ideas. And then step 5 is engaging your community, and step 6 is about getting recognized as a health-promoting school. So today our presentation is going to be all about step 5, how to get community volunteers involved in your school wellness efforts. So I would like to introduce our presenters now. We have Sean Wade. He's the manager of volunteer initiatives at Action for Healthy Kids. He works with our national organization, with our network of schools, and our partner organizations to develop strategies for engaging volunteers into our school health and wellness efforts. And that includes parents and family members, youth, and other community members, as well as nonprofits and businesses and other community partners. Then Maritza Gutierrez. She is the community outreach specialist on our Colorado team. Maritza coaches parents and school wellness teams in our Parents for Healthy Kids program, and she provides trainings in English and Spanish to parent and community groups. And in addition to her work for us, she is also the Director of Community Leadership for Cultivando, which is a Colorado nonprofit that works to engage and unite community members to build sustainable, healthy, and inclusive neighborhoods. We are also very excited today to have an additional guest speaker who will be sharing tips and strategies around volunteer engagement. That is Jason Farine, a special education teacher at Kilmer Elementary in Chicago. And we'll tell you more about Jason and his work right before we introduce him later in the presentation. Hopefully I did not mess up pronouncing your name, Jason. Jason, I know you're on. I'm going to recommend, though, that before you come on that you actually dial in on your telephone versus your mic. We had a little static on your mic, so we had to mute that. So if you could dial back in on your phone, it would be easier for the audience to be able to hear you without the static. So, but Jason's going to come on later in the presentation. First, now I'm going to turn it over to Sean to get us started. Go ahead, Sean.
Great, thanks, Carol. And it's great to be here with everybody today. Excited to talk through some basics of volunteer engagement and how to get your community more involved in your wellness programs. We'll start with talking about the school family community partnerships. We believe at AFHK that those types of partnerships are essential to creating healthy school environments that are both impactful and sustainable for the schools. For these partnerships to be successful, parents, family, and community engagement initiatives need to be intentional, comprehensive, and really creatively designed to fit the needs of your particular school community. And in that way, they'll be, we have found most successful. So I'm going to start off our presentation today with an overview of volunteer engagement. Who should you involve and how can they help you advance your school wellness goals? What are the benefits of successful community and volunteer engagement? And then we'll share some strategies and resources that you can use to develop a volunteer engagement program. And our guest speaker, Jason, will provide some tips and some examples of those strategies in use. So start off by talking about community engagement. And when we talk about community engagement in our school wellness efforts, what we're really talking about is a more holistic view of how your school community is involved in those efforts. It's a key factor in sustaining those efforts over the long term, and community members can be involved in multiple ways and at multiple levels. All of those levels are important, but we want to call it the kind of big bucket, the main ones that we see as significant. So you need family members to provide support at home by staying informed, reading up on the issues, participating in trainings and programs on family health topics and on topics related to school health, and by providing opportunities to practice those healthy behaviors at home. You also need those family members to participate in the school wellness initiatives that your team is offering at school. So attending your health fair or fun run, participating in family challenges like Screen-Free Week, those kinds of at-school initiatives. And then you also need family and community members to volunteer to help out with school wellness events and activities. And it's that last bullet point that we're going to be focusing on today, how to engage volunteers to help you advance your school wellness plan. So today, as we talk through community and volunteers, we're going to be using those terms a lot, community members, volunteers. So really to break down volunteer types and what volunteer engagement means. We'll go deeper into a few of these types of volunteers, but when we talk about volunteers, we're really talking about everybody that helps out at the school, that gives their time to help out at the school. So we'll go a little deeper into a couple of those volunteer types that will be most relevant and useful for your parents and community partners, specifically like local businesses, faith-based organizations, colleges. But when we talk about volunteers, we really use that as an umbrella term to include all of those folks. But in order to engage those volunteers successfully, there really needs to be a mutual partnership between you and the volunteers with clear benefits to the volunteers, but also clear benefits to the school. Some of those benefits to the school include meeting critical needs. Each school has their own different needs at different times, and different groups of parents and community organizations will be able to help meet those needs in different ways. So we'll talk later about creating a plan to address those needs, but the school's first responsibility will need to be identifying what their current needs look like. Volunteers can also help you do more with limited resources. They're able to help schools accomplish more without costing more resources when done well. And they can help build new connections when both parents and community organizations, they can help build if you build real relationships with those volunteers, that will help you in the future as new needs arise, and it will also help those parents and community members feel more connected to the school. Along those same lines, volunteers and local organizations often have other resources that they can bring to the table, whether they be new ideas, donations, or other people that they can bring with them as they get to know the needs better. So think about who in your network might have skills or interests that complement your needs. Then you can brainstorm ways to engage those individuals, organizations, or businesses as volunteers to help meet those needs. And if you need help getting started on all of our Game On activities, as Carol mentioned earlier, Game On is sort of our signature program. All of our Game On activities include ideas on how to involve volunteers in those activities. And we'll continue adding more and more volunteer recruitment and engagement resources on our website throughout the year. So when you successfully engage those volunteers, they can really be terrific champions to achieve your team's goals. So your potential pool of community volunteers extends way beyond your school, though. So in addition to just parents, grandparents, other family members, you can also reach out to health professionals, fitness experts, local chefs, high school students looking for community service hours, college students working on internships, and senior citizens who might want to get involved. Community partners may be able to help find some of those volunteers, and we'll talk about how to utilize those shortly. So how can family and community members help with your health and wellness activities? Well, to get parents and other community members involved as volunteers, you should offer a variety of commitment opportunities. Let potential volunteers know exactly what's expected of them in terms of their time and the required activities. And we'll talk about really being clear with those expectations and how to communicate effectively with volunteers later on as well. But volunteers can serve as mentors, coaching assistants, monitors, chaperones, tutors. They can lead walks, games, and after-school activities. They can also help with playground makeovers and school gardens, or help with writing grants and managing events. And they can also share their expertise with school staff in a variety of different areas. Another thing that's often overlooked with volunteers is their value as advocates. You can find volunteers to advocate for the best policies and practices related to school wellness. Parents will make great advocates when you want to reach out to teachers, school leaders, and district administration. And health professionals really make great advocates when you want to reach your parent community about specific wellness-related initiatives. Finally, parents, family, and community members are prime candidates to be leaders on your school health team and work with you to develop your school health plan. So now we want to talk specifically about parents as volunteers. Parents will be probably your biggest pool of individual volunteers, and studies have shown that really there are a ton of benefits to engaging parents. It's not just about having their help with events and activities. It goes way beyond that. California Project Lean, which is an organization specifically in California, but that has done research that really applies to parents all over. They found that students with involved parents are more likely to earn higher grades and test scores, have better attendance, better social skills, graduate, and go to college. And the Center for Disease Control has also done quite a bit of research into this area as well. And they've reported that students who feel supported by their parents are less likely to disengage from school and learning, less likely to experience emotional distress or consider or attempt suicide, and they're also less likely to practice unhealthy eating behaviors. Often when parents volunteer at school, the likelihood of students initiating smoking decreases and the likelihood of them meeting guidelines for physical activity increases. So better health, both from the eating side and also from the physical activity side, just by getting parents engaged in some of those school activities. There's also benefits for teachers and principals. Studies show that they are more they're better respected by families and have higher morale and job satisfaction. And parents additionally feel that are engaged in students in schools also have more affection and positive reinforcement and use less punishment with their children as well. So according to the CDC, parents' primary motivation to get involved is a belief that their actions will improve their children's learning and well-being. So when we talk about why parents get involved, that's the primary reason, but there's also a lot that goes into secondary reasons of why they're more likely to get involved or stay involved. So according to the California Project Lean, again, parents participate in schools because it makes them feel good. They want to show that they care about their child's health and education, and because they feel that it's their duty. They really feel like, you know, this is what I should be doing with my kids' school. And the parents that we work with tell us that they're seeking a healthy environment for their child. They feel passionate about a particular health or wellness topic. They're looking to boost their children's academic achievement, that they want to be a part of a team. They want to be included in what's happening at their school. They want to help out, just giving their time and making a difference at the school. So trying to understand why your parents might get involved at the school can help as you market your volunteer opportunities to those parents. So we want to shift now from thinking just specifically about parents and family members to thinking more broadly about how to engage other organizations or other partners in your community to get involved. So you don't want to stop with just getting your parents and individual community members involved. That's a great start, and those are going to be critical allies and critical pieces of that volunteer engagement circle. But when you build relationships with community organizations to offer further programming to your students and families, you can also find funding, more donations, more volunteers, and many are really eager for that work, for the opportunity to get to work with schools and to get involved. So a lot of times it's just a matter of reaching out and finding different organizations like you see on the screen now, local businesses, corporate partners, faith-based organizations, any colleges and universities, whether they be community colleges or, you know, all the way up to major universities, they always have students that are looking to get more involved and get more experience in working with schools. And then some of the other social service agencies and local volunteer organizations that you see on there as well. What you can do is you can find out what programs they may already have in place, just do some basic web searching to find out if there's things that are happening already, and that's just a lot easier than trying to invent something new on your own, and then you can kind of be a part of that or reach out and ask how, and we'll talk a little bit more about how to do that as we go on. So community partners really can help in a variety of different ways. Many of the same ways as individual volunteers and parents can help, but their size and access to larger groups can also allow you to scale up your efforts. So when thinking about how you can work with community partners, consider projects that you may have for small or large groups, or ongoing opportunities that will allow you to help build a longer lasting relationship with organizations that may have people that are continually coming through. So think about students at a university. You might not always get the same students coming through week after week, but they always have that body of people that they can draw into, and if you have that relationship built with the university or the college, then they can keep sending people and work on that. Another benefit of working with those types of organizations, community organizations, colleges, local businesses, is that they can often handle the recruitment of those volunteers within their own groups, so you wouldn't have to even worry about that part. So it takes that off your plate completely. So when thinking about why community volunteers or why community partners might get involved, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of them are looking to really get involved in their community already, and it's just a matter of making that connection and reaching out. But they all come in with different motivations for why they might want to get involved. Faith-based organizations, they match up based on issues that their congregations prioritize. Universities might be interested in giving their students new experience or new skills, to help build up a resume. Local businesses may be looking for ways to engage their employees outside the office and do some team building. So it's different. They're coming from different places, but they're looking for similar things, and you know, they all might be looking to get more positive media coverage for the organization and really get their name out there and let people know what they're doing in the community. So as you look for those potential partnerships in the community, it's really helpful to find out what their motivations for getting involved might be, and to know if they have any health and wellness initiatives that are currently part of their portfolio, if that's something that they're focusing on, and if that's something that they're already working on that, as I mentioned earlier, that you can just kind of hop onto and be a part of. So that information will all kind of be helpful as you identify with each partner the best ways to work together to meet your wellness goals. So in order to do that, we've identified 4 strategies to increase volunteer engagement within schools. And it starts with really, as I mentioned earlier, identifying what your needs are and creating a vision and developing a plan on how you're going to use volunteers in a strategic way to meet your wellness initiative. So that's the first step. And then you really want to create a welcoming and inclusive environment. As I mentioned, parents really will continue to come back if they feel like they're being valued. So this will set the stage for everything that comes next. Next, you want to educate and inform your community about what wellness issues you're focusing on in the school and what opportunities you might have available. Often this is a key barrier preventing people from understanding why or how they can take part. So just imparting the knowledge, just making the connection is a big part of it. And finally, building trust and sharing responsibility within the community, with your community members, on how they can take action. So really giving them a voice, not just as participants, not just that you're dictating to them what they can do, how they can help you, how they can be a part of it, but empowering them to be leaders and decision makers, and that will really bring your health and wellness initiatives to a place of sustainability for the long term. So now I'm going to turn it over to Maritza Gutierrez, and she's going to walk you through each of those 4 strategies that I just gave you an overview over. So Maritza, I'll let you take it from here.
I unmuted you, Maritza. Go ahead. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you, Sean. And as Sean mentioned, I will be going over the 4 strategies and steps today. So for successful parent engagement to happen, your school really needs to have a clearer vision for it. And by this, does your school mission reflect the importance of community members, volunteers, and do you have staff training, policies, and procedures in place to maximize it? Oftentimes we want to make it happen, but we really don't have the procedures in place to make it happen. So before you start to develop your plan, ask yourself, how well do you know your community? Do you have a good understanding of your community in order to create that plan, and what are the needs of your school? For example, do you live and work in a multicultural community? How many families speak another language at home? How many kids come from a single parent family? Or maybe they might not even live with their parents. So what does your community value? We need to be mindful that different cultures value different things. And it is important to recognize, and it also provides a unique opportunity to create an inclusive environment. Do your students and families face particular challenges and barriers related to health and wellness, and to volunteer their time? So gathering all of this information will help you understand what is important to your families, and it will also help you find solutions to removing barriers for them to participate. And when we're speaking about barriers, what barriers do our volunteers have? So from a logistical standpoint, school wellness meetings or activities may be offered at times that don't work for your community members and parents. So parents have very little free time to offer, and some may not be able, might not have transportation or childcare in order to participate. So when these are things that you should consider when you're thinking about those logistical barriers. So find out when your community members are available and parents, what works for them, what's the best time. Oftentimes, sometimes the time that it's good for them is not when our teachers are available, so we have to compromise finding alternative meeting times so everybody can feel like they're part of it and they're not being left out in this important conversation. When you can, provide transportation and childcare. Offer activities that don't take a lot of time, and also offer activities that they can do at home. So when we're talking about other barriers, there's culture and social-emotional barriers that can sometimes be difficult to identify and solve. So they include language and culture differences. Sometimes parents feel inadequate to be able to get involved, or they just need more knowledge and information as far as how they can get involved. So feeling like their options are not valued or respected when they are given. And many of these are factors of the school environment. So it's making sure that your schools are having a welcoming culture that invites family members to get involved. So as you can see, we're going to step into strategy number 2, and it's creating a welcoming and inclusive environment. This should happen at all levels in your school, being warm, friendly, and helpful, smiling and greeting people. And it seems like this is something that is silly and should go without saying, but in fact, this does happen. So making sure that we're talking to staff about this, and that our staff is being trained on how we're ensuring that we're having that welcoming environment. So using friendly and positive language, start by telling community members what you can do and what they can do. Also, instead of telling them what cannot be done, so switching that no into more yeses in a different language. So most of the times when we hear a no, that usually triggers like a negative emotion. So finding a way to be truthful without the negative emotional consequences about it would be important. Providing translated materials shows that you are welcoming other parents and community members. So translate materials when possible. Also, so now we will step to our strategy in step 3. As you can see here, educate and inform your community. It's important. Action for Healthy Kids. Our research shows that parents in all communities, including underserved communities, feel local schools and parents have joint responsibility to influence their children's eating habits and physical activity, attitudes, and behaviors. So make sure that you are informing your parents and how they can do this. And in fact, sometimes we invite parents and community members to functions, but we don't tell them why it is important to come. We just give our community, so it's important that we give our community the why. Why are we asking them to be here, and why are we asking them to get involved? So creating that sense of urgency about the health of our students and our children. So when you relate it to your local community, it will be more meaningful to them. And you have a better chance to succeed. You have a better chance to, oh my God, I'm going to start speaking Spanish now. you have a better chance to succeed academically. And so make sure you're tailoring your message to their family and children's school experiences, and crafting your story where it's an interest to them, and it makes it more personal to them. So tell your community about health and wellness policies that affect and their key efforts to date in your community. So when parents and families feel welcomed and informed, this will help you, to get to step number 4, which is building trust and sharing responsibility. So this is very important. Establishing trust and building positive relationships with your community is very, very critical. In fact, my personal opinion would be that this is probably the most important one, is really making sure that we have established trust and positive relationships. And what kind of trust am I talking about? Is really that lack of trust between some parents and community and school staff. Oftentimes, we hear that parents don't trust the school in many different issues. So making sure that we are building those positive relationships. So parents and families are most likely to trust your team if they feel like it's a positive experience, and when they know what you're doing, and they know that their perspective and opinions are taken into consideration when making those decisions. So it is important that we make them feel welcome and that their input is valued. So, and with the same strategy, it's important that you have an established and clear communication channels between parents, family members, and school staff, and that's a key foundation to building trust. CD suggests that schools use a variety. As you can see here, there's written and verbal and face-to-face methods. Oral communication is probably a very important one, and as in a lot of cultures, it really reflects passion and expression, and it's just easier to get that perspective when you're doing face-to-face. So a lot of times receiving those messages in person can provide immediate feedback. So by using two-way communication, meaning from school to home and from home to school, parents can receive health and education materials and learn how they can get involved in the school and healthy activities. In turn, they can also provide information back to teachers, counselors, and other staff. So we need to be flexible and willing to change the way that the channels of communication and the way that we communicate with our parents, and really opening that trust and increasing the communication will take time, but it's effective that we are willing to try different methods if something's not working. So what are some other ways to communicate about health and wellness? Your school may already have someone appointed or hired an official parent liaison to be the point of contact to your school in your school. So that would be a great way to bring that person onto the health team. That would be a great resource. Also, share your school health information and activities through non-school groups. Use neighborhood groups, faith-based groups, and other community organizations. It's important to establish regular meetings with your parents to discuss school health issues and child behavior, grades, accomplishments. And when we're saying regular meetings, we're not saying parent-teacher conferences. It's important that you have a scheduled time to really have these conversations. Be sure that you build the school's capacity to route information from parents to the appropriate person. It is very frustrating as a parent when you go into a school and kind of nobody has an answer for your question, or you're telling them, well, we need to figure out who can help you out with that. So really having the school capacity to know how do you route those questions, and being transparent when you don't know the answer, that is very important. So if you're in a multicultural community, it's important that you create opportunities at the school for parents to share important aspects of their culture, needs and expectations. Just be mindful that for different cultures, the education system looks very different in other countries. So translate health-related materials into different languages, or identify health materials already available. Oftentimes there's already material that already exists. Provide interpreters to assist non-English speakers and families at the school or school events. Provide sign language interpreters for those that are deaf or have a hearing impairment. So another important thing is that often we don't think about this, but sometimes there's already a knowledgeable parent in the community. Often every community, every school has that go-to parent that other parents and community trust. So if you have already identified that person, having a conversation with that person and asking them, how can you be sensitive? How could you have a clear message that's not going to that's insensitive. Sometimes we have the best intentions, but the way that we send out the information or the systems that we have in place are not welcoming often to other cultures. So if you try these strategies and are still struggling to engage, this is why it's important that one key person is part of establishing your relationships. And like I said, I used to work at a school. I worked for a school for 10 years, and there was always that one go-to person, that parent that other parents trusted, and that community member that wanted to get involved. So let's maximize our efforts by creating at least that relationship and trust with that one parent. So also it's really important, this is something that's very, very important, is sharing the responsibility. Be careful that we don't have set agendas or predetermine already what parents should be doing without gathering their input for potential volunteers. So allow community members to identify their own volunteer roles and what new ideas that they can bring to the table. So not having preset agendas is very important. It might be the only way to building trust and long-term community and volunteer engagement. So they need to feel like their voice is not just in the implementation phase. They really need to be part, as Sean mentioned earlier, of that decision making. They have to know that they're an asset to your school wellness needs, and they also have the power to develop your school's health plan and evaluation and your progress. So they will have a lot more buy-in if they are part of the decision-making process. So when you're building your team, involve people who have a deep understanding of the culture, the norms, the dynamics of your community. This will help to ensure that your projects are sensitive, relevant, and welcoming to all. Also, it's important that you involve them like I mentioned earlier, from the beginning. Don't assume what's important to parents and families. Let's just engage them in the conversation, and let's make sure that we're speaking of that in the beginning. So another big thing is don't let language be a barrier. Having a team that's inclusive. Like we said, if you can, have interpreters, and if not, finding that bilingual parent who can help you engage other parents to be involved. Oftentimes it will help with interpretation at the beginning, but often if you see like you have a lot of participation, it's making sure that you can provide an interpreter. Talk to other parents that you see often at the school, whether it's at the drop-off, at the pickup, or that you see volunteering in their classrooms on a regular basis. Ask your teachers. Your teachers will know what are the parents that are interested and willing to get involved. We also talk about smiling earlier, and like I said, this might sound silly, but sometimes this is very important to make sure that parents feel welcomed. A smile, I think that it means same in every language, so making sure that our body language is welcoming. And realizing that a lot of times parents that might not speak the language do understand a lot. So not letting language really be that barrier in our efforts. And it is possible to have a diverse and inclusive team that represents everyone in your community. So with that said, I'm going to wrap up, and I think the only thing that I want to say with these 4 steps is really also honoring, like we've said, parents, they will know what is their capacity, and some parents want to volunteer, some parents want to dive deeper and be part of that decision-making process, some parents want to be the doers and the ones that are in action. So really allowing a safe space that we are welcoming, we are open, and that parents will decide in which phase of that they will volunteer in, and we won't decide for them. So thank you so much for letting me share, and I will hand it back to Sean.
Great, thank you, Maritza. Just to wrap up this section, I want to give everybody just a few next steps that you can use to create your plan to use volunteers and put that into action. So this is all a much larger topic. This whole slide could be a whole webinar on its own. And we'll be hitting on some of these aspects in a few webinars this school year, but just to get you started, here are a few pointers and some resources on where you can go from here. So the first step in creating any plan like this, as Marisa talked about, is to create a plan, but in order to do so, you really need to identify your school's current needs and begin to set goals on how you're going to accomplish them. I've included a link here to a pretty thorough needs assessment tool from Volunteer Match, which is a volunteer organization nationally that helps recruit and manage volunteers. You can feel free to click on that and use any or all of those questions contained in there to give your plan a little bit more clarity and direction. You can also share those questions with your wellness team and staff members to get more info before you start to narrow down to what your highest priorities are. Then you can brainstorm who might be able to help out after you've identified those needs, figuring out where there are folks, organizations, individuals that can help. And again, this is a great spot to bring in other staff and wellness team members to think about people and organizations that you can reach out to. Work to find any connections that you can within your school community. Then work on developing your pitch and just ask. Like I mentioned, a lot of organizations, a lot of people want to get involved. They just haven't been asked. So that's typically just the first barrier of making known that there's an opportunity. You can also use the AFHK volunteer event and management tool that will show in the resources section at the end of the webinar today. That helps with recruitment and communication efforts as well. And if you're looking for volunteers beyond your immediate network, you can also tap into some local affiliates of national volunteer recruitment organizations like Volunteer Match, Idealist, Points of Light, or Hands-On Network affiliates. So those are a couple that are in lots of different places all over the country. But as you're recruiting, it's also important to make sure you know the district policies for your volunteers, whether they require background checks, waivers, what the code of conduct is. All of those types of things from a district level will help you avoid some potential issues down the road. And as we discussed earlier, really creating a welcoming environment is going to be a massive importance to creating a positive volunteer experience. So consider hosting a professional development session for your staff on how to work with volunteers, and you might want to even invite some parent leaders if that's appropriate. And then just really make sure that you have a clearly defined project and roles for the volunteers, and take the time to train them and make sure that they understand the expectations, going back to that sort of two-way communication street that Marita talked about. That's going to really help them be more successful and help the program be more successful overall. And then maybe most importantly, really make sure that you're telling your volunteers thank you and appreciating all of the help that they're providing. There's a ton of different ways to recognize your volunteers, from simple thank you notes to a giant end-of-year appreciation bash. But be creative and come up with some ways to make your volunteers feel valued that really fit into your school culture and will hold meaning for those volunteers. So now, given all that, I'd like to take a minute and introduce Jason Farine, who is a special education teacher at Kilmer Elementary in Chicago, and also one of our 2016 Healthy School Hero Award winners for his work in leading the wellness team at Kilmer and building partnerships with lots of different types of local organizations to advance his school's wellness work. So Jason is joining us, and we're lucky to have him. He's going to share just a little bit about how he successfully sought out and developed those partnerships and some of the success that he's had with volunteers. So I will now turn it over to Jason. Jason, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me fine?
No, we can't hear you. I'll try.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, how fantastic. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Marisa. Lots of awesome information that we have so far. So, yeah, I wanted to talk to you about a few things, specifically about the organizations that I've been able to work with and get some volunteers from. I'm getting this weird feedback that's kind of messing with me right now. Am I hearing it?
I'm hearing a little bit, yeah. Jason, are you on a speakerphone?
I am not. I've got my headphones in.
Okay.
And I'm
sometimes we do hear a little bit of feedback, but why don't you go ahead and I think we can hear you pretty well. If not, then I'll stop you and we'll try something different.
Okay, sweet. If I trip up, it's because I'm hearing myself repeat back to myself in 5 seconds, so it's a little weird. But Sean, can you go to the next slide? Or whoever trying it. Okay, awesome. So I started this about 3 years ago, and I was approached by the Chicago Cubs with a program they have called, man, this is really difficult.
Why do you want to ask me questions?
Yeah. All right, sir. I'm going to just, I can't hear you guys, so my intern will let me know if I have questions. So, again, started a couple years ago, and I was approached by the Chicago Cubs to do the Chicago Cubs Fun Run. They provided us with some funds and signage, and just the whole kind of program was like rolled out for us. And it turned out to be quite a success. And so that got me thinking, since we're in Chicago, we have the opportunity to reach out to other professional sports teams. And so I reached out to Chicago Fire, Chicago Sky, the Bulls, the Bears, and I started finding success whenever I was looking for, I went to the community outreach and in their education department, but they didn't have it. Their group sales department turned out to be a very good resource, and so I would highly suggest that if you're trying to reach out to different organizations and there's an opportunity to reach out to the sales departments, because through them I've been introduced to the Chicago Fire Community Ambassadors Program, which is amazing. Every quarter they send out some trainers, and we get about 30 to 50 of our students to have these 3-hour workshops with professional athletes, and the kids kind of lose their minds, and it's a beautiful thing. Chicago Sky was another interesting group that I reached out to them. They didn't necessarily have a health and wellness initiative, but they were pushing early reading programs. So we got to our school into a competition to see who could read X amount of books by a certain time, and then have the winning schools would have the Chicago Sky come out and do like a gym session. But we didn't win, or else I'd be able to give you a little bit more details about that. So yeah, reaching out to professional sports teams.
Oh wait, hold on.
Okay.
Jason, let me interrupt you for just a sec. I'm wondering if you have the microphone on your computer on, and that's when we're hearing it.
I had it off, and somebody flipped it back on. Now it's off again.
Yeah, that sounds better. Go ahead. That sounds better. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sweet. I'm still getting a delay, so I'm gonna pull it out of my ear again and just kind of talk without hearing
That's great.
myself.
We can hear you much better now.
Super duper. Okay. So yeah, reaching out to professional sports teams, and so I'm still working on the Bears, the Bulls, and the White Sox, and I have high hopes for all those things. And it's basically it's a really good way I've found to get the kids excited about living healthier lifestyles, and so that's been a big thing for us. So that's the professional sports teams, again, and try to get their group sales departments if you run out of any other options. So aside from sports teams, we've been fortunate enough to work with 2 universities that are close by. One is Loyola University and the other is Northwestern. I'm going to speak to Northwestern first and then Loyola because it's more expensive. So Northwestern is specifically for their sports programs. They have they call them Northwestern School Days. They're basically pep rallies trying to get the community, the youth in the community to come out and become fans of their sport team from their university. Again, this is one way I went through the group sales department for their football team, and I ended up getting connected with their Karen that's been working with us. So we get to send out to students, and they'll take as many as we can send them to have on the Saturday before like the football season starts, and now we're about to do one for basketball season. It's just a giant, like, 8-hour day of like rides and amusement and face painting, and like we do things like students will volunteer to build a backpack to give them to students that have more need. But anyway, reaching out to them has been very positive, and again, very specifically to just their sports. And I'm hoping that we can work with them a little bit longer so that we can get more of what we're getting out of Loyola University. And let me get into that. So a couple of years ago, Loyola actually reached out to me with they have a service learning department, like experiential learning. And so what started out as maybe 5 to 10 Loyola college volunteers coming into our health classes to help support our PE program and our health classes has now become a group of, would you say, 30, 40?
Between 20 and 30, yeah.
Between 20 and 30 Loyola University students that are assisting in health classes and physical education classes. Also within our recess, we have organized or structured recesses. So they're getting to work with our recess coaches that, and also with our health and wellness events. Again, as Marisa had pointed out, reaching out to universities is a great way to gain volunteers to help you out. And also just, the use that comes with that, there's a lot more energy, there's a lot more ideas, a lot of creativity. So again, what started off a few years ago, we organizing these 5 students, flash forward to this year where I actually received an intern to help manage all of the influx of volunteers that we had received. So Mrs. Donnelly, who's actually here with me, organized all of the correspondence between the Loyola students and our teachers. She set up our schedules. I actually was able to hand over our most recent few health and wellness events to her. It was completely organized by them, so it freed me up to be able to, teach. So that's been a very extremely beneficial process since we've reached out to Loyola and started to receive assistance from there. So that was working at the universities. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about, and I'm really glad I went on this one because Marisa, how I do good information. So
Jason, you're starting to fade just a little bit. You're starting to fade a little bit. I think your headphones off.
Okay, thank you. So we're on there's a lot of languages spoken here. We have representation of over 40 countries and 30 languages. That's 30 languages are spoken at this school. And we also have a large refugee location area that's right next to us, so it feeds in a lot of kids from there. So we've had extreme, well, I guess I've had extreme frustration when it comes to being able to organize and get a large family team together, like the parents. We don't even have like a PTA or a PAC, but that's one of the things that I want to kind of take on moving forward. And if I have to use the health and wellness as a vehicle to make that happen, like I'd like to see our PAC grow. And one of the things that, again, reaching out to Loyola, instead of just working with health and wellness and education students, we're now kind of shooting on the idea of gaining translators so that whenever we do have events or we do have virtual print pickup and things like that, that we can communicate much more effectively to many more of our parents, and not just 5 or 6 languages that our teachers speak here. So that's something that we are working on, and I took some copious notes. So thank you again, Sean and Marisa, for that. We're going to talk a little bit about events, because I think that's, well, first off, the most fun part of what we're doing. And then also, I think it's the most effective when it comes to getting the attention of our students and just kind of making them reflect on what it is how to take care of their bodies a little bit more appropriately. So within the actual learning environment, we have, at the end of every quarter, we have learning celebration. And this is just a day for our middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. It's a day for them to celebrate all of their efforts that they put in the previous 10 weeks. And it's a mixture of like learning, like just games like multiplication and things like that. But it's these larger activities where the kids are on their feet and moving all day long, running back and forth and doing all these, like, I think it's kind of like obstacle courses and stuff. So that's something that we incorporated 2 years ago, and it's a great way to just kind of, one, celebrate the fact that you students have learned so much over the quarter, kind of getting a clean slate for those that need it, moving into the next quarter, and just giving everybody a unique experience within the school setting to build relationships that they might not have been able to do whenever it's on the teacher or the student kind of situation. So the learning celebration has been a huge component, and health and wellness team has been very involved with that.
So Jason, we're having a hard time hearing. So I think maybe we better wrap up because we're having a little bit, it's fading in and out a lot. But if you want to like say one thing to wrap it up, that would be great, and then we'll see if we can get Sean back on with better audio.
Yeah, sorry about the audio. If I had to say one thing, I think I would just like to thank Action for Healthy Kids and all the support that you guys have given us over the past 2 years. Any of my questions have always been answered. Like all the ideas and creativity you guys bring to the table is much appreciated.
Well, we're thrilled to have you as one of our heroes. So you're a great example for all of our schools and our constituents, and we really love sharing your story. So if people on the line had trouble hearing or understanding, I recommend you go to our website where you can also read Jason's story in our Healthy School Hero section. So thanks very much, Jason, and we'll turn it back over to Sean now.
Great, thanks, Jason, and thanks, Carol, for that. And again, Jason, I want to thank you for being here and for sharing your story. We appreciate having you as part of the Action for Healthy Kids Network. Wanted to go over just really quickly a few resources that will be helpful as you all move forward in planning out your volunteer program and building it up.
I don't know, please.
And then if we have time for a couple questions, we'll do that. But you can see a couple resources here on this screen. Just to say a couple quick things about each. The Beyond the Big Sale book it's filled with strategies and resources for developing a policy and a plan to deepen parent involvement at your school, and that's available at Amazon. Parents for Healthy Schools is a set of really great resources designed to get parents involved. It was released from the Center for Disease Control last year and includes a guide that has PowerPoint presentations, idea sheets, and check-in questions to track your progress. And then there's a brand new resource from our partners at USDA's Team Nutrition. That's the third resource that you see on there, the Local School Wellness Policy Outreach Toolkit. That's got tons of templates that you can use to engage parents and staff and community volunteers in your efforts to implement the wellness policy there. It's also got customizable letters, flyers, presentations, newsletter articles, all that kind of stuff. AFHK was lucky to be involved in the review of both of those toolkits, and we're really excited that they're now available. We also have a school events planning guide that you can check out on our website. You can also use our volunteer and events management tool to post and manage health and wellness events, register attendees, and recruit volunteers. You can see that there. And then there's just two other sets of resources that I'd like to mention quickly. Every Kid Healthy Week is a national annual celebration of schools' wellness achievements that happens the last week of April every year, and it's really designed to just create nationwide momentum around school wellness. Last year we had more than 1,600 schools involved with Every Kid Healthy Week events, and so if your schools are planning on hosting events this April, please check it out and register your event at that website there. You can get yourself on the Every Kid Healthy Week map and really start to build that momentum. And then finally, Parents for Healthy Kids is a set of resources that's really designed to appeal to parents and other school wellness champions. It has webinars on there, live and recorded, YouTube presentations that you can share with your school, and then tip sheets for all kinds of activities. And many of those resources are also available in Spanish. Thanks to Rita. Now, I don't know that we have too much time, but if there is one or two questions, maybe we can take that, but I'll turn that back over to Carol to moderate that.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much. We do have a couple questions, but I think in the interest of time, they're very easy questions to answer via email, and so we will shoot you an email if you ask something and we didn't get to it. So would also like to mention to everyone that we have a lot of great social media and resources on our website. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, Flickr. We've got lots of health tips, physical activity, games, recipes, volunteer opportunities, and lots of different ideas for action. As I mentioned earlier, we will send out a follow-up email in the next 2 to 3 business days with a link to the recording and handouts. I'd like to apologize for some of the audio difficulties that we had. Hopefully you got most of the information that you wanted, and you can also learn more in the resources that we send out afterwards. We'll send links to the different resources that we discussed, and so that you can learn more. Again, I'd like to thank our presenters today, and Jason, our guest speaker, and all of our listeners for all the things that you guys are out there doing every day to ensure that all kids are healthy, active, and ready to learn. Thanks so much for your time, and have a great day.